Letter 11. February 15, 1977. Carlsbad, California. Dear Carrie, thank you for sending those letters. The ambivalence you felt about sending them seems to match my ambivalence about reading them. I wish I hadn't, but I know that I had to. I feel unending fury at the idea of her sharing what she has shared with your husband. When I think of the two of them in a hotel room together, it burns inside me so hard that I think I might collapse. Yesterday, on Valentine's Day, Janet left to take a phone call in the bedroom. I pretended I had no idea what she was doing. But before she even came back, I got so mad that I punched a hole through the pantry door and had to pretend it was an accident. You don't know me, but I have never punched a thing in my life. I even pretend to kill spiders, but I actually coax them into a jar and take them outside. Please don't tell Janet that. Not that you would. I guess that's my own secret, isn't it? I'm not quite the man I pretend to be, and she's certainly not the woman I thought she was. Am I weak for still not confronting her about it? I am scared for the things we will say that we can't take back. I am scared for our children. I do not want to be one of those dads in a condo. She'll take the kids? What if she takes the kids and moves to LA to be with your husband? But I also don't know how much longer I can go on, living a lie, side by side with her. How much longer can I keep this all inside? Tell me how you live with it, how you make the days go by. I cannot make it through this alone. I don't think I'll be able to survive. Please, Carrie, tell me how to do this. Yours, David. Letter 12. February 16, 1977. Carlsbad, California. Dear Carrie, I am sorry for my previous letter. I was losing my mind. I know that you can help me through this. I'm sure I sounded like a crazed maniac. I'm sorry I wrote to you so desperately. Yours, David.
Letter 13. February 22, 1977. Encino, California. Dear David, you have nothing to apologize for. I am always ready to listen. And I find great comfort in your letters. You can consider this a two-way street. I don't think you're weak for not confronting your wife. As you know, I've decided not to confront my husband just yet. I still think there is a good chance this thing will run its course quickly. If it does, I think we will be happy that we let it. But even if I didn't have that hope, the truth is I'm still not sure I would confront Ken right away. In general, I prefer not to discuss anything with him until I know exactly how I feel about it. Ken has a frustrating way of always winning any argument. He is very intelligent and very persuasive, and I oftentimes lose track of why I was mad as I'm speaking to him. So no matter what direction this thing leads, I am not going to speak to him or anyone else about this at all until I understand exactly what I want to say. Which is complicated. Quite obviously. My situation is different from yours. I do not have children. We have tried for years, and I have not been able to conceive so far. So I suppose my fears are different. I married Ken almost 10 years ago. I can't imagine a life without him. I wouldn't even know where to start. I am afraid of losing all that I have ever known. I feel like I can't tell anyone about this, because if I'm not willing to leave him, then no one can know. What I am saying is that I am alone in this, David. Except for you. You are the only person who understands exactly what I am going through. And I hope I can be that same thing for you. We are not alone. We at least know of each other. It is a very lame consolation prize, but I will take it if you will. As for the answer to your question, here is how I get through the days. I spend every moment I am alone asking myself what sort of future I want. Instead of thinking of what has happened, I think of what will make me happy one day, hopefully soon. For instance, we are still trying to have a baby. Every month that passes feels like a new opportunity, at least at the beginning. The pursuit has not been easy, especially now. It is almost as if I have to become some other version of myself in order to muster the enthusiasm for both of us lately. But I do it because I still believe in the future I'm hoping for, a family with the man I chose. I'm trying to think of better times, later in life, not so much the past or the present, but a brighter future. Maybe that will help you, too. All my best. Carrie.
Letter 14. February 26, 1977. Carlsbad, California. Dear Carrie. Your advice was quite helpful. At dinner last night, as Janet put the green beans and brisket on the table, I was looking at her truly mystified. How is it that she is capable of being two people at once? It pains me to think of what else she is capable of. I must have been staring at her because she snapped her fingers in front of my eyes and said, "David! Pass the salt, please." I looked at my sons, who were now staring at me like I had three heads. And so I decided to redirect my thoughts, as you said to do. I thought of 5 years from now when my oldest son, Michael, will be graduating high school. I imagined Janet and me in the audience with our 3 younger sons, Sam, Andy, and Brian. I thought of the 5 of us clapping as Michael crossed the stage. And I thought of looking at Janet with full trust and happiness. I wonder if that future is even possible anymore. But I have to hope that it is, because the other future, where I am seated a few rows down from my family, and another man has taken my place. I can't bear it. So I am going to continue to think about the good future for now until I know what I am going to do. Thank you for being there for me. I know you only as handwriting on a page, and yet you might be my closest friend. Tell me more about yourself, your life. I'd love to listen as you have for me. Yours, David.
Letter 15. March 4, 1977. Encino, California. David. Do you ever feel like your life got away from you somehow? Lately, it feels like my whole life has a similar feeling to when you check the clock on a Saturday and realize it's already 4:30. I just don't understand how I got here. I was 19 when Ken and I met. I had just started my sophomore year at Boston University. I was studying to be a teacher. To be honest, I'm not sure why I was studying to be a teacher. I think it's just what everyone was doing. I met Ken at a party of a grad student friend of mine. He was about to finish his final year of medical school. He asked me out by offering to take me to an exhibit at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, and I said yes. I don't remember what the show was, but I do remember that I had already seen it a few weeks before and pretended otherwise. It's interesting, the things we remember. Anyway, I fell fast for Ken. He was so confident. I felt like I wasn't quite sure who I was back then, and he was so sure of himself. We got married in Boston when I was 21. As I think I told you, my parents weren't altogether excited about the match. They thought I should stay single a bit longer, try to make my way in the world alone. My mother has always told me that I have more opportunities, as a woman of my generation, than she ever had. She made it seem like I had an obligation to use them how she would have. But, honestly, I just wanted to marry a nice man who made a good living and have children. I guess I'm no women's libier. I left school when Ken matched at a residency program in Chicago. We lived there for a few years and then moved here to Los Angeles for a fellowship he took at UCLA. Now that we're settled, I think of going back to school every now and again. But Ken has been clear about wanting me to stay home and spend my energies on getting pregnant. He says if it's not happening when I'm home and relaxed, it's definitely not going to happen if I'm up and out of the house all day. I don't know if that's true or not, but it has been hard to argue it with a doctor. And so I spend my days maintaining the house, throwing dinner parties for Ken's colleagues and their wives, and, lately, helping his mother settle into her new townhouse 10 minutes away. She says she's moved here to help with things. I suspect she's here expecting a grandchild any minute. She's starting to make comments about me being too slim. This just isn't how it was all supposed to go. All my best. Carrie.
Letter 16. March 9th, 1977. Carlsbad, California. Carrie. I feel like my life has gotten away from me all the time. I thought by my mid-30s I'd have some financial security. But I am a high school biology teacher who has also taken on coaching girls' field hockey and basketball as of late to earn more money. I know almost nothing about field hockey or basketball. I'm considering adding driver's ed since at least I know how to drive. My students are supposed to call me Mr. Mayor, obviously, but I can hear them referring to me as Mr. Grayer behind my back. I've gone fully gray at the age of 37. I always hoped I'd be one of those men who aged well. You know how ladies are always going on about how attractive they find older men. I was never terribly attractive in my youth, but I thought I'd grow into it. But I'm afraid my late 30s have also been accompanied by a growing gut, a bad back, and tension between my shoulder blades that never quiets down. Not to mention that I no longer feel like I know my own wife. As I interact with Janet now, I can see ways in which she and I had lost touch with one another long before this. It's almost as if realizing she was lying about one thing has made me realize how often she and I lie to one another about small things. She's lying about having an affair, but she's also lying about canceling the newspaper delivery like I asked her to. It's as if she thinks I don't notice that the copies are piling up under her nightstand. I do things like that too, though. I do not tell her about my concerns about money or the fact that she goes too easy on our oldest. Lying has just become so much easier than telling the truth. I don't remember when things got so hard. But life has been a matter of keeping our heads above water for years now. Money is scarce. Janet knows it and I know it, and I hate talking about it, and it's all she ever wants to talk about. It has become so ever-present that it shades everything. When Janet and I met, I had a habit of collecting pennies I found on the street. I've always loved pennies. I like the copper sheen to them. But I have stopped collecting pennies in front of Janet because I'm afraid she will think I'm doing it for the money. That is how tight things are around here. Janet keeps offering to get a job, and I can see the look in her eye when she offers it. Complete and total disappointment. It's clear she feels reduced to it because I can't provide. She blames me. She says she hates relying on me to do something that I am not properly doing. She'd rather have some control over it herself. It guts me every time she says it. I've tried to explain to her that I am paid decently. I have a good job. The problem is that, well, kids are expensive. I know that wanting children has been a trial in your marriage. I can't begin to imagine the pain that must cause. The truth is that having children has been a trial in mine. I stopped desiring my wife quite the same way after she got pregnant with Andy and Brian. The first two were planned, but the twins weren't. They were a downright shock. I was already exhausted and penny-pinching with the first two. To be clear, I can't tell you the joy my youngest two bring me. My oldest, Michael, is impressively willful, and Sam can charm almost anybody. But Andy and Brian have this curiosity about the world and this bond together that I never expected. I can't imagine my life without any of my boys. But since the shock of the twins, being intimate with Janet always makes me nervous. It feels like I am just begging for more to be responsible for. It has made me forget how I used to see her. And to know your husband sees her that way, well, it has not been easy. Just the mere mention of how many times they've slept together in one night has made me feel about as big as a thumbtack. Sometimes I think the insecurity this brings up is the hardest part. Do you ever feel that way? Yours, David.
Letter 17. March 14, 1977. Encino, California. David. Do I ever feel insecure? Oh boy. How much time do you have? I am afraid that my husband is going to leave me for your wife and that I will be left with nothing. 30 and single and childless without even so much as a secretary position on my resume. I'll be a joke. I don't have anything of my own, anything to show for my time. All I've ever done is marry a doctor. Often, I feel overwhelmed by this sinking feeling in my heart that I will never be enough. That I am damaged and any man in his right mind would leave me. What man wants a woman who cannot bear him a child? No matter how hard can and I try, I don't get pregnant. I've disappointed us both so many times at this point that it is hard for me to remember feeling like a complete person. The doctor can't say for sure why I am not yet pregnant, but it seems clear that something is wrong with me. He even said it was likely pointless to test Ken. He said it most often lies with the woman. What more evidence do I need that I'm deficient? When I think about what your wife must be like, I picture her as everything that I am not. 4 children, twins by accident. She must be so womanly, so beautiful, so perfect. I imagine that my husband looks at your wife and sees a real woman. And I am afraid that I will lose the life I have built to a woman who can give him what he wants. There. I've said it. Or written it, as it were. The ugliest, most pathetic parts of my heart. All my best. Carrie.
Letter 18. March 18, 1977. Carlsbad, California. Carrie. I promise you there is no ugly part of your heart. And I am so sorry to hear of what you have been through and how it has weighed on you. I find myself wanting to reassure you about all these things. Is it crazy to suggest we meet for lunch? Perhaps somewhere halfway between us? I could leave work after second period if there's a day you can easily get away. It would be nice to finally put a face to the name, if nothing else. All this being said, I realize there is a thin line between a good idea and a god-awful one, so if I've crossed the line even suggesting it, I understand. Yours, David.
Letter 19. March 23, 1977. Encino, California. David. I'm actually glad you asked. I think lunch would be nice. How about next Wednesday, the 30th at 12:30 at the Victor Hugo Inn in Laguna? I will make a reservation under my name, but just in case, I'm 5 feet 9 inches with long brown hair and brown eyes and wire-rimmed glasses. If you're truly at a loss, just look for the lanky woman with sharp elbows, nervously drinking an Arnold Palmer. See you soon. Carrie. Letter 20. April 4, 1977. Encino, California. David. Thank you so much for our lunch last week. It's funny, but the moment you walked into the dining room I knew it was you. I think it was your hair. You told me it was gray, but you were selling yourself short. It still has a salt and pepper look to it, especially the way it darkens on the sides. It's very becoming. To be frank, that was my first thought. He doesn't give himself enough credit. When you sat down, I think I was staring at you for a bit. The whole thing was a bit disorienting, to be honest. I felt like I knew you so well, and yet I had only just laid eyes on you. I had enjoyed how easy it was to share things with you when you were just a faceless person a few hours away. Right before meeting you, I started to worry that after our lunch I might not feel as comfortable writing to you anymore. But it's the exact opposite. I find it perhaps even more comforting to know that it is you I have been confiding in all along. I suppose this has all been a very long way of saying one very small thing, which is this: thank you, David, for being such a wonderful friend. All my best. Carrie.